All right. Hey, today's about questions. Today it's about questions. Thank you, Blanca. That's who's singing that. So, questions in our business, questions that we use in our everyday business opportunities, questions we use in our understanding of what it is that we're doing, how we do it, what we do more of, and for you to be able to use questions to help you grow your business in an entirely new way. So that being said, I want to share with you some presentations. I want to go to the beginning. I want to kind of get us understanding the philosophy behind what it is, the psychology of what it is that we do in our business. Does that make sense? So if we start at the beginning, let me do this here. Let me move this over here so that I can be looking at you there and watching you. I need to share the screen. Share screen, screens. I want to do this one and share. And so now you should be looking at the psychology of sales, mechanisms, and ethical practices. Does that make sense? So let me check one more thing here on the dashboard. And feel free to invite people to come to this event. Have them go to unlearnme.live, unlearnme.live. The recordings will be there for a little bit as well. And put this here, questions there. That's going to the join area. Correct. It is enabled. All good. Awesome. So the psychology of sales and mechanisms of ethical practices. Now, if you want the recording, if you want this replay, you'll be able to read all of this content. So there we go. Dynamic field. We're going to talk about the cognitive dissonance. We're going to talk about elaboration likelihood method. You probably have not heard some of these things. For many of you, you've been taught MLM, multi-level marketing. I call MLM me loving more. So when I talk about what MLM is all about, when I talk about the ideas, the concepts, and the understandings, what I really want you to get is this idea of there's a variety of ways to move people. I think Emerson said, a man convinced against his will is of the same mindset still. So sales is not convincing. Zig Ziglar said, sales is the transference of enthusiasm. So let's look at some of the basics, right? Some of where we challenge our prospects. And I'm going to give you, listen, on the dashboard, unlearnme.live. If you're watching this replay on YouTube, if you go to unlearnme.live, there's 100 questions that will change the face of your network marketing business if you use them. 100 questions on lead generation, on questions you can use to inspire people to build their business, questions you can use for retention, 100 questions. And that's just the tip of the iceberg in my world. So there's the theory overview. This idea of the cognitive dissonance is that individuals experience psychological discomfort from where they are to where they want to get to. What is the discomfort? See, most people will call that discomfort what? They'll call it a comfort zone. They'll call it a comfort zone. So this idea of this dissidence, right? When we think of dissidents, people who are against the government, who are challenging the government, it's about discomfort resolution. And to alleviate the discomfort, we always talk about in our profession, can you find their pain? What is their pain? Now, this presentation, this 2-day training, this 90-minute workshop today and 90 minutes tomorrow is about finding the pain and then being able to solve it. Too many people are easily able to poke the pain, find the pain. If you see somebody with really red skin and it doesn't look like their normal skin, you can assume it's sunburn. And you can also assume that if you touch them, oh, that might hurt. What's the solution? What's the solution? It's to change their attitudes and behavior, seeking consistency in their thoughts. The challenge is most people don't want to give up their pain. right? Have you ever heard the question, how's that working for you? So here's the application in sales. Strategically create solutions. See, your business presentation is designed to create these strategic solutions. It teaches them about the industry, teaches them about the company, teaches them about your management team, right? Isn't that what it's supposed to do? Isn't that what it does? So I want you to become aware that you have strategic solutions available. You might not be following the formula, right? Sales professionals can strategically create solutions that highlight the gap between the current state and the desired state. Is that making sense? And then the purchase motivation. Why are they likely to purchase this? It's to provide the solution to something they currently have some challenges with. Does that help? So that was the dissidence message, right? This idea of there's a gap between them. Now we're going to talk about ELM. How many of you have ever heard of ELM? The idea of ELM is this, meaning that we have a challenge that is going on right now that should have happened, that could have happened, that would happen when we really want to be able to change the way we look at things. And that understanding says, you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So as we go through the process, and this idea, I'm just checking out some messages some people are sending me over in some other chat. So I hope you're doing this method, because it's really a lot easier for us to understand the methodology. So there's a couple of routes. There's two kinds of routes that you can take when you're using the likelihood. It's likely that they'll go this way, or it's likely that they'll go this way. There's logical reasons and there's emotional reasons. So when you look at the questions that you ask, I bet a lot of your questions that you currently ask are motivational questions that are logic in nature. Do you make enough money? Do you have enough free time? Right? Do you get to spend money on what you want? Does your lack of funds keep you from investing in things that you more dream-like in nature? Right? So there's these two kinds of paths. And then there's the peripheral route, the side effects, these endorsements, where people and folks are having conversations about what it is they truly like, where it is they like the celebrities, right? A lot of people, how many times have you seen celebrities marketing a product? Milk, right? The big one was they all went around with mustaches. I promise you, a lot of them probably did not drink milk. Just saying, a lot of them probably didn't drink milk. And then there's the combined approach, providing compelling arguments, right? That's what your stats do. That's what your facts do. And then also some peripheral clues telling the stories. The questions for all of these are simple in nature. I want you to understand the reason why you would use them. What's the meaning behind the question? Because all too often, do we want facts or do we want stories? And a lot of times we ask yes or no questions. We don't ask open-ended questions. Does that make sense? The principle of reciprocity. Reciprocity means if I give you something, you'll give me something back. What's something you currently already use as a reciprocity? Something you currently already use, drop it in the chat. Yeah, free samples. You offer value before you get the sale. It's the forced law of reciprocity. If I say good morning, you use this all the time. You may not use it in sales, but you've used it. You ever say good morning to somebody and they look at you and go, good morning. They try to muster up the nicest good morning possible. So the whole idea is when you find a way for you to begin this idea and understanding the offer that you give, exclusive content. This, ladies and gentlemen, so you don't go broke in your business, is when you offer tripwires, documentation, the 7 tips to fastest weight loss, the the 3 ways to use crypto to leverage your student loans, the 5 trends that you need to be aware of in today's economy. Those offer value. And if you provide value, Jim Rohn said, if you want to increase your income, increase your value. Does that make sense? If you increase your value, you're going to be worth more. So this is the importance of tripwires. This is the importance of building your list and talking to your audience. You want to create an obligation. And I've got questions for all of these, I just want you to understand. I want to do my best to help get across. I don't need you to understand. I want to see if I can do a job well enough so that you can have access to your next level of success. Initial offering triggers a sense of indebtedness. How many of you have ever, well, some of you probably, when we were younger, the older crowd, when we were more mature, when we were younger, and you would go buy a car, they would literally make it sound like they were giving you a gift when they said they would include the floor mats for your car. Now, the floor mats were the exact same color as the carpeting in the car. They couldn't use it anyplace else. They are not selling car floor mats separately, but they made you feel that you were obligated to move forward in the sale because they were giving you stuff. The customer is now more inclined to reciprocate, making a purchase. You have made them feel indebted with your tripwire and your constant value. Like, here's the thing. If you want the recordings of this, if you want to have access to the recordings, if you go to the dashboard where you got to this page, on that very top part of the resources, you'll see a button that says click here for the replay. It's $47. You're going to get 3 hours of conversation, 100 questions that you can use to build your business for $47. How many sales would you have to make? How many easier sales would you like to create to have this access to this for the rest of your life? $47. See, I'm already giving you tremendous value. And then you've got to decide, would it be worth that to have that in my toolbox? Now, I've got 5 more presentations. I won't get through them all today, that's for sure. But between today and tomorrow, we'll have that conversation. So it'll be 3 hours of deep, strong content. And then build a relationship. The scarcity principle, we all know about this, right? Limited quantity. I've only got 10 samples, and you sell one, you cross through it, 9 samples. Why is that value? It taps into the FOMO. You know this, but you're spending more time trying to educate people than FOMOing. Do lives, do live presentations, do live training. See, this is going from 11 to 12:30. I'm not going to 2 o'clock. And if you miss this, you're going to have to watch the replay. If you miss the first part, you're going to have to watch the replay. If it's of value, and I can promise you from the very first minute I get started, I'm going to bring you value. Time-sensitive offers. The 100 questions is only going to be available for a couple hours. It's that valuable. You'd probably pay $47 just for the questions to know how to create more leads, how to help them build their business, want to inspire them to build their business, how to create retention, and how to build community. 100 questions around those things. Aren't those absolutely paramount in our business? Exclusive access. I have a VIP community that's $50 a month, not a day, not a session, not an hour, $50 a month. They get access to VIP content. What's the VIP version of what you do, what you offer? See, the reason some people may not participate with you is because they got everything you got. They're getting everything you have to offer. There's a bigger version of you that would be inside of the VIP side, right? Showcase popularity, high demand. These are all things you can use to build. These are things that create questions that your product, solutions, team, community, value-added services solve for the client. Ethical persuasion versus manipulation. I don't think we need to go over this, but you know, sometimes when you've been manipulated, right? Truthful or transparent, may omit stuff, customer anonymity, respected or comprised, may be compromised or ignored, right? You know these things. I would avoid the manipulation side. This is a big one. Building rapport. Do you have questions that build rapport? Do you have questions that create conversations that allow you to go deeper and farther into a dialogue? Paying full attention, listening to their nonverbal cues, active listening, right? Finding common ground. One of the things that people ask me all the time is, Sean, how important is rapport? How important is asking questions to find out more about them? Rapport is important, right? People do business with who? People they know, they like, they trust. So then my question to you is this. If people do business with people they know, they like, they trust, how is that built? It's built through rapport. Here's my question to you. How old is your rapport? If you're using the time that you've known this potential customer or prospect, that's not what I'm talking about. Listen to the power of this question. How old is your rapport? See, when I have a conversation, I'm looking to find something from our childhood, whether it's the bikes that we rode or if they were farmers. We can talk about a whole slew of content around farming, whether they were dairy cows, whether they grew up in the snow and had to carry water. I want my rapport to be old with a prospect, because the older the rapport, not, hey, do you drink Starbucks? I guess you could say that. Do you remember your first Starbucks? I want to see how old I can get into their memories. Does that make sense? And the reason I want that is because I want there to be a level of credibility that's more than just when we sat down, more than the titles that I carry. Are you hearing that? I've got questions in the 100 questions. They're around there. And I've got more questions as well to do that. Mirroring and matching, you understand that in human psychology. Empathy and understanding, fairly simple. I'm kind of blowing through this. You can go back, watch the video in the replays and hit pause and to take more notes. The consistency principle. How important would it be for consistency, for you to consistently enroll 1 person, 2 person, 3 people a month? How important would that be? See, that's a question. The initial commitment. Encourage small, easy commitments. Can they show up on a conference call? Can they put their writing of their why in order, right? Recognition, reinforcement, provide value, positive experiences. What are some of the initial experiences that your customers have when they use your product? I know there's some software companies out there that teach how to leverage international currencies. It's confusing when you go into the back office. There's a lot of awareness and new education that needs to happen. So can you reinforce their commitment to go through the videos? Gradual escalation, right? We talk about in network marketing, somebody can do the compensation plan in 5 minutes, 10 minutes to go from no income to 7 figures. That's a little too much. That's a little faster than most people can handle. Gradual escalation, laying out a plan for the first 7 days, the first 14 days, the first 21 days. Would it be important for your customers to have a plan that they could follow, that they could implement, that they could participate in and not feel overwhelmed? And then the last one is major purchase, right? What's the next major purchase for many people? For many people, the next major purchase that they're going to do is going to an event, isn't it? Isn't the next major purchase is to go to attend a regional event, get on a plane, drive in a car for 5-6 hours, get on a plane for 2 hours, 3 hours, get a hotel room? See, the more you have them through the initial commitment, the reinforcement, and the gradual increase, you can get them to make the major purchase. When do most people really get locked into your business? At a convention. The challenge is sometimes they'll go to the convention without a commitment to themselves and they come back and they quit. That's a whole nother training, but we can work on that as well. So tailoring your sales approach to your customers' personas. We know there's 4 kinds of personalities, right? It doesn't matter if it's their whales and minnows and guppies and sharks, I don't know, or birds, the eagle, the sparrow, the owl. But I know the DISC, right? D-I-C-S. D-I-S-C. Sure, I can spell. This the DISC program, there's 4 personalities. You know where the first 4 personalities came from? Hippocrates, the father of medicine. He realized that there were different, unique personalities when he needed to heal people. That's how he began to treat people differently. Right? So what kind of persona are you? And this is where questions. How would you like to receive your information? What would you like me to do to make sure that it fits your needs, your wants? How often do you want me to communicate with you? What's the best way? What are the criteria you use to analyze your content? You understand the psychology behind the questions that we ask. A lot of times we don't ask, how would you like to receive information? We just assume they're going to get it via text and email, and they're okay with Snapchat and all of these different things. What's the power of sales proof? How many times do you, when you enroll somebody, listen, I'm using questions right now. How often do you, when you enroll somebody, do you put them on the phone with somebody who's had great success with the product? Do you do 3-way calls? Drop a 3 in the chat if you still do 3-way calls. Yeah, some of you do. Some of you are not sure what that is. I would reach out to somebody in your community and say, hey, what's a 3-way call? And then practice it. Influencer endorsements, you understand what that, user-generated content. How many people do you have, if you're building your business, how many customers have you asked for testimonials? How much content have you created from your own conversations? Is that making sense? And then what do your doctors say? What do your experts say in trading and finances? What does your medical doctor say who deals with the autoimmune system or deals with the physiology of the body, who's a cardiologist or who's a brain specialist, right? What's that content all about? And do you have those available and do you use those? You've heard of IQ. Seamus, go. I live on a ranch, for those of you that may not know, and my dog's coming in and out of my office. So our big black kind of shepherd looking one just came in and poofed at me. He wanted me to go play. I'm like, can't go play right now. So emotional intelligence in sales. What is your level of emotional intelligence for yourself as you're selling? Have you recorded yourself? Do you get nervous when you do sales presentations? Do you realize you are in sales? Transferring information with enthusiasm to another soul? There's a big difference between empathy and sympathy. Do you know the difference? Do you know what allows you to better address the needs and the concerns and build stronger relationships? It's not sympathy. Sympathy is when you say things like, listen carefully, you may want to sit down. This would be so good for them. That's sympathy, not empathy. Sympathy is you're saying, they didn't get it. I feel sorry for them. They didn't get it. Empathy would be, I probably need to do a better job at explaining the values and the benefits of my product. And then emotional regulation. Learn to manage your own emotions. Do you realize that the level of commitment, the level of confidence that you're sitting in right now is exuded, comes across your face? Let me ask you this. So I can see some of you. Do you know how to smile? Well, then tell your face. Some of you look very perplexed as I'm watching you. Is this helping? Drop an H in the chat. Cool. Thank you. Whoa. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Role of storytelling in sales, right? We've heard this. We've heard the phrase facts tell, stories sell. Do you have permission to tell stories? It connects you emotionally. It illustrates beliefs by telling a good story. And when I say beliefs, beliefs that there's good things out there, belief that other people are using it, belief that people who started from not knowing to knowing got benefit from it. Stories overcome objections. Because here's the thing, you have to overcome the story they're currently telling. Right now, you're telling yourself a story about this training. Wait, what? You hear it in your head, right? Well, I've heard some of this before. I've heard all of this before. I've never heard any of this before. Either way, it creates a story in your mind that says whether you believe this or not, whether you think you can do it or not. And Steve Jobs said, your brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. Your brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. When you leave the room now, what do people say your brand is? Just asking. Neuromarketing, the science of customer decision making. See, it happens in the brain. It happens in the brain. Neuroimaging techniques. Now we use fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging machine, and EEGs, electro and cardioencephalogram. All of these things to say, I think I got that right, about what provides stimulus to your conscious and your subconscious. People are making decisions, even though they say yes, they're making their final decision with their subconscious. And for those of you that have not been around me, thank you for giving me a chance to speak to you today and speak with you. I use this analogy. If you take a golf ball and imagine the largest sporting arena you can think of, and you take that golf ball and you were to set it on top of that arena, here's what those two physical structures correlate to. The golf ball is your conscious mind. The arena is your subconscious mind. So even though you're having a conversation, asking great questions to your prospect, they're ready to go, they're ready to get started, all of a sudden they have this switch. It's because their conscious mind was overridden by their subconscious mind. And science has shown that through these technologies. What are the emotional triggers that are consistent? Right? These are things to activate the subconscious mind, to get them emotionally engaged, not logically. We want to get rid of the hypothalamus. The thalamus is the thinking side. And if we ask questions that cause people to think a little bit too much or become uncomfortable, it activates the amygdala and it shuts down the prefrontal cortex, which is their executive decision making. You get answers. You ever get answers like this? Oh, well, next week, or send me the link, or that's because that's their defense mechanism. Sensory marketing, right? What are the images? What's the color, right? If you look at the picture of the brain here and it plugged into the platform it's sitting on, you may or may not like those colors. That may or may not be the image for you in this picture. I like it. It inspires me. It's pretty self-full of me, or selfish, depending upon how you look at it. But what's the imagery around what you do? Is a lot of your imagery masculine in nature and you're talking to a lot of females? Are they harsh, dark, bold, cutting edge colors? Or they have a little bit more softness to them? You know, people could say no because of the way something looks, right? And then ethical considerations, right? Avoid manipulation. We got 2 more slides on this one. And so are you using AI to help with your questions? What are the 10 best questions I could ask for this avatar? Do you know who and what your avatar is? Can you put that into a chat bot and a GTP bot and ask, here's my Sally, here's my Sam. These are the personalities for Sally. You would name that avatar. And here's the ones for the masculine or the male version of the people that I want to deal with and who use our products and services. What are the 10 best questions? And then ask those questions 4 or 5 times to 4 or 5 female and male personalities and get their responses and see what it does, see how it triggers and moves them forward. You'll begin when you find, here's the thing about questions. When you find great questions, they will give you a level of predictability you won't even begin to imagine. I promise you that. And then virtual reality, that I'm sure is on its way. Some are already doing it. So in conclusion, balancing the psychology and the ethics in sales. See, it's really important we understand human nature. It really is. It's really important that we understand human nature. And when we understand human nature, we can change so many things about our presentation, about the way we do things, about how we do things, when we truly understand the people that we are with. Does that make sense? You have an ethical responsibility. Do right by people. There should be no conversation about that. Yet we still have instructions on plastic bags that don't say, don't stick your head and wrap around your neck. You would think that would be the reason most people wouldn't do that, right? Continuous learning, pretty simple, and then customer-centric approach. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment. And what I really want you to do is ask yourself some questions of that. Was that of value? I'm going to get another presentation here out and have it with you. And ask yourself, does any of that make sense? Does understanding how I make a presentation fit better with my clients, fit better with my prospects? Because questions change as you grow your relationships, right? So one of the things that's most important is being able to create trust. And you can create trust through questions. You don't create trust through facts. You just don't. It's when you ask questions and they give you, and they feel they are a part of your conversation. So let's take a look at this next bit of content, right? So all of this is to say, this is part of a training program, a kind of an ebook, if you will, that I've turned into a training program. It's about, I don't know, 40 pages long, 50 pages long. And these are excerpts from it. These are little bits that I've pulled from it on questions that people have had the most wanting to understand. So let's take a look at this next section. So let me move this over here so that I can keep it in front of me, right? Psychological, see, I deal in the brain. I understand the questions we could ask, the questions that challenge, the questions that push, the questions that motivate, the questions that demotivate. And so my goal is to help you and to help us all through this process. That making sense? So here we go. Down for a couple more. Right, we talked about in the giving, the free samples, the valuable information. This is developing reciprocity and personalized gestures. How many of you drop a TN in the chat if you use thank you notes? 1, 2. There's a bunch of you here, and 2 use it. And I'm not 100% they use it all the time, but the fact that they know what a thank you note is and what you would send out is critical. I promise you. Recognition. It's what men and women die for, right? The ribbons and the badges, and babies cry for. They want the recognition. Thank you notes are, if I could say, what's the biggest thing you used to grow your business? I'd tell you it's thank you notes. Impact decision, right? We've talked about this. Risk reduction, triggers a purchase. People go, "Ooh, I want more." The power of valuable information. This is where your lead magnets come from. The reason I'm asking you this is because you get to ask your customers without it costing you anything. It costs you time to create and to put it together, but without costing you inventory, you get to create and craft tremendously value specific to your niche information that your customer continues to see as value add, value add, value add. And the law of reciprocity says that if you give so much value, they almost feel compelled to join you in your journey, in your conversation, to upgrade, to go to events, to do a variety of different things. Right? Brand loyalty, understanding that you want to create, number two, memorable experiences. See, we have a tendency, there was a scientist who did some research, and he did it with servers, with food, with waiters and waitresses, people in the food industry. So if you're a waiter or waitress, you might understand this. Drop a W in the chat if you were a waiter or waitress. They did this study with them on our ability to remember things that are important. Well, they asked the waiters who would take orders, 3 and 4 bits of content for each appetizer, their drink, and their main course, and the temperature and all of that stuff. They would memorize all of that for 5 people. Come back, know which ones got what and where went everything. And then if you asked them, the research showed that if you asked them 5 tables later, they wouldn't remember. They'd hardly remember anything, because here's what research shows. When we have good experiences, we toss them out. Why? Because our brain looks for 2 things. We are wired for, will this kill me? Or how fast can I recognize the pattern? And if you give somebody a great presentation and you give them some great information and maybe even a sample, you know why the samples sit on the shelf? Because it was not a threat. Wait, what? Yeah. The reason people don't open up something that they know is good for them is because it'll change their identity and it's not a threat. It doesn't hurt anybody sitting on the shelf. We can go more into that in other trainings that I do. Scarcity situation, we talked about that. How are you putting yourself on the scarcity line? What's something special that only you could offer that people would be excited about? Or something your team could offer, right? The psychology of limited time offers, right? Reduces overthinking. Listen to the psychology of this. Creates urgency, increases perceived value, reduces overthinking, and drives immediate action. Do you understand why your company does promotions at the end of the month? They may do some retention promotions in the beginning of the month, but they do business building promotions at the end of the month. I know, I was vice president of a $200 million network marketing company. Exclusive products, right? They have their VIP shopping club, ethical boundaries. We've talked about this, but understand that all of these are designed to help you avoid the manipulation. Too many people, you know when manipulation takes place, you know how manipulation is taking place? People say this. Buyer's remorse. Right? Buyer's remorse. Be transparent. Be truthful. Take people on your journey. If you don't know, say, I'm not aware of that, but I'm excited to help find the solution for you. All right? Again, rapport, active listening. It's important to understand the benefits of each of these. Again, I want you to understand the psychology. You're seeing the same thing, and it looks different, it looks the same. But when you understand this, you will listen and you will find things of opportunities that slip by most other presenters. Does that make sense? So, how would you like some questions? Let me give you some real world questions here that you could use based upon different areas. Would that be good? Drop a 1 in the chat if you would like some real world questions. Oh, okay. Let me stop sharing there. Let me create a new share here. And I think it's this one. Yes. So here's the questions. How do you feel when, listen, we asked, would you like some free samples? But what I want to do is I want you to upgrade the questions that you use when you have conversations with people. Let me put this in present mode. There we go, in spotlight. So principle of reciprocity, easy for me to say. All right. So free samples. How do you feel when you receive a free sample or trial product? See, I don't know anybody who asks that question. I don't know anybody who has ever taught that. Would you like a free sample? We ask that question. But do you see what this does? How it elevates the dialogue? How do you feel emotional and logic? How do you feel when you receive a free sample or a trial product? Some people say, I would never use free samples. If it ain't worth buying, it ain't worth giving away, right? What impact does it have on your purchasing decision? Could you imagine those of you that even sell trials? What impact does a trial have on your purchasing decision? Do you see how we're forward thinking? We're moving people into the next level of dialogue. Isn't that a powerful question? Drop a P in the chat if that's a powerful question. Yeah, thank you. These are questions that I use. People ask, why is it so easy for you? It's not easy. It's simple. It's not easy. Ready for another question? Can you recall a time when receiving something for free made you feel more inclined to make the purchase? Do you realize, listen carefully. I'm just going to sit here for a second. I'm going to let that settle in for just a second. Do you realize what would happen in your business if you asked that question? Can you recall a time when receiving something for free? I want to use the words because they're designed specifically to trigger and activate the brain. Can you recall a time when receiving something for free made you feel more inclined to make a purchase? What was that purchase or service? You follow me? Do you see the level of professionalism this provides? How about providing valuable information? How important is receiving valuable information before making a purchase decision? This sounds a little bit more professional, doesn't it? Doesn't the other things that we ask, you want more info on that? My mother, when we owned restaurants, and servers, how many of you have ever heard this? You still working on that? Drop an R for the response. Yeah, we've all heard that. Are you still working on that? And when this happens, my mother would freak out. And she would say, she would literally, she wanted to fire our staff when they would say that. So we had to rewire them. And to say something to the effect of, are you through enjoying your meal? Still working on that? She goes, what do you work on construction? What are we handing out hard hats? Are you still enjoying your plate? So how important is receiving valuable information before making a decision, before making a purchasing decision? See, all of these lead to the value added of them actually doing business with you. Is this making sense? Can you share an example of where helpful information influenced your buying decision? Why would we ask that? Why would we ask a question like, can you share an example of when that worked? Because we want to link ourselves to that same level of quality, that same level of value, that same level of benefit, and link that to this versus all of the other times between the past and the present when things didn't go right. The brain looks for two things, kill me or pattern. And when you're talking about buying something, there's a good chance you're going to be lumped into the failure side of purchases versus the positive side of purchases. Why? Because sometimes our claims are just way too big, way too amazing. What do you mean I could learn trading and then help other people learn trading and get and earn commission off of that? That sounds crazy. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Is this good? This is good stuff, isn't it? It's really good stuff. So personalized gifts or discounts. Hold on here. I need to change the size of the screen so that I can see it all. How do personalized gifts or discounts affect your perception of a brand of a salesperson? See, I would ask this. I enjoy dinner. Would there be a chance that at some point in the future, I might be able to take you to dinner? Would that be okay? Oh, sure, absolutely. What's your favorite restaurant? So maybe I can prepare. And they would tell that to me. Well, what I would do then is to make it easier for them to go on their own time is I would get gift certificates to that restaurant. And I would say, hey, listen, I don't know, because I would do a lot of flying to my customers. They weren't driving distance, especially when I lived in Puerto Rico and they were in St. Croix. You don't drive to St. Croix. You have to fly or take a boat. All right. So there's not that many restaurants in St. Croix. So I would get some gift certificates. I say, hey, listen, if I'm not in town the next time you want to go, have a drink for me. And it would change, and it would allow me to bring customized solutions, customized value added to my clients so that they could feel more comfortable about doing business with me. Have you ever felt more loyal to a brand because of a personalized gesture? Could you imagine what would happen if you asked that question? Well, I'm just selling vitamins and nutritionals. Man, if that's how you think you're selling world-class products that are life-changing, generationally changing products. Why would you diminish them? Why would you make them seem small? Are you liking these questions? These are some of the questions like this on the 100 questions that's back on the unlearnme.live resource section. Scarcity principle, limited time offers. How do limited time offers influence your decision-making process? How many of you ever have a flavor drop or a first mover advantage conversation? Does that make sense? And if you have those, you could ask prior to it, are they somebody that wants to get in on the newest, latest release? The challenge is, ladies and gentlemen, let me just stop the share. We'll come back here in a second. The challenge is that we can ask the questions. The reason most people don't like asking questions is because they're only assuming that the question is the question. The question is the doorway. The question is the doorway to accessing their wants, their wishes, their dreams, their desires. When you understand the absolute sheer power in asking good questions, you'll find ways to do things you never thought possible. Simply because of questions. Okay, let's go back to, let me go back to sharing some more of the questions. Okay. Exclusive products and services. How does that product impact your decision-making? What if you could only get exclusive flavors that fit your need? Would that be of value to you? Because now you have data on them. Harvey Mackay, author of one of the probably more famous books of his, is How to Swim with the Sharks and Not Get Eaten. And Harvey Mackay is this genius of marketing, genius of business. And Harvey used to teach his car salesman the Mackay 66. The Mackay 66 were 66 questions, and maybe there were some sub-questions in those 66. But here's the thing about those 66 questions that they would ask to a customer, not all at once, through general conversation, you make mental notes, you go back and fill it in. But they ask questions about the family, about the kids, about their birthdays, about their levels of graduation. They ask if they were military, what branch, what service, how long. About your spouse. They find out questions. They ask questions about the spouse. All of this to develop what? Rapport. Here's the thing that's most interesting about the Mackay 66. And you can Google it. It's available to you, Mackay 66. I created one for network marketing called the Murphy 66, specifically designed around network marketing. When they filled out all of the questions on the McKay 66, the chance of doing business rose to 100%. People do business with people they know, they like, they trust. The McKay 66 got you there. Have you ever bought something specifically because it was advertised as limited edition? The reason that you asked the question, what was it? Is because you want them, it's called linking. See, as a public speaker, I've stood on stage in 36 countries. I usually say 30 plus. Translated into over 40 languages, 47 to be exact, in over 40 languages. And the reason that you ask, what is it, is this thing called linking. And as a professional speaker, if I were speaking with other speakers, I would want to know, I would at least listen to the person, and especially if it was multi-day event, to listen to the 2 or 3 people before me, and the people who, if I'm usually on the last day, the people that spoke previous days, and I'm listening for something funny, something that really shifted the awareness of the audience. And then all I have to get up is, how many of you love the conversation with Tommy? Wasn't that funny when Tommy said bloop, 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 and they all break out in hysterics again? I just linked Tommy's entire presentation to give me, the audience, the emotional state I want. Pretty cool, isn't it? It's unfair. Well, it's not unfair if you know the rules. And the rules are you get to use all things in your favor. So the reason you ask, what was it, is to link that good experience to your good experience. Does that make sense? Where's my buttons over here? Popularity. How does knowing that the product is in high demand affect your purchase decision? There's a few companies recently that have launched that are dealing with some fundamental products that may not seem sexy in its description, but its results are phenomenal. And they typically, every month with increased production, they run out of product, with doubling the volume of inventory and still running out of product. If that was a product you were looking to purchase, how much impact with the fact that they keep running out of product, even though they're doubling production? What would that do to influence you in making a decision? The popularity of a product. Can you think of a situation where scarcity made you act quickly? I want you to, I wish I could just open your head and pour in the confidence to ask these questions. I wish you could experience the level of quality that your presentation takes on when you ask these levels of questions. So, can you tell the difference between ethical? And most people would answer that and say yes, right? When's the last time you were manipulative? Most people say buying a car, right? Transparency. Are you a transparent person? I'm asking you. I'm asking you, the viewer, right now. Because if you do, how does transparency from a salesperson influence your product or service? People do business with people they know, they like, they trust. People who are transparent, people who are transparent. Can you provide an example of where, right? All of this to say, all of these things representing customer anonymity, autonomy. I'll get it. Listen, I'm a farm boy from Ohio, now living in the Ozarks of Arkansas, barely made it through high school. So sometimes, listen, if I can do some things and still make it through, don't be afraid of experiencing opportunities to do better. We might call those mistakes. How important is it for you to have the autonomy during the sales process, to be in full control? Can you remember a time, right? All of these things, avoiding deceptive tactics. I hope that's not you. I hope you're not the one who's doing deceptive tactics. So we're going to take a break here for just a second. I need to upload something else, change there, check that. Okay. And zoom areas. Just want to make sure I've got everything lined out here. There we go. That's why that was happening. Okay, very cool. So with that being said, now I've got another set of slides to share with you. Pretty cool stuff, isn't it? Lots of content. You're going to want to watch the recordings. I get it. If you want to get the lifetime recordings, there's a button there in the resource section that says you can have access to it. Okay, I thought I disconnected myself there for just a second. Here we go. What's this one? Mastering influence sales techniques. Okay, so let me bring this one over here and let me get this conversation going for you. Let me share this. So that's the 100 questions. Hang on, I'm getting there. Let's go. Share screen. Here we go. It's that one there, right? Yep. And share. And now, nope, that one. Share. Okay, there we go. No, I don't think that's it. This is the one I want to share. Hold on. It'll get there. And yes, this started an hour ago because I can't tell time. Shocking. So that being said, all right, here we go. Mastering the influence of sales, present and spotlight. So we're talking all about questions. We're talking all about questions. And now, and in understanding the value of questions, this is about mastering the techniques in sales. One of the greatest techniques you can learn in sales is the power of using questions to influence, to shape the landscape of the conversation. And when you become an authority in sales, which is what you want to do, you're leveraging your expertise. How do you leverage expertise? You leverage it through sales. Now, there's a whole series of questions I'm going to share with you. I told you there's 100 questions on the dashboard. But I want you to understand the psychology behind the power of questions. It's not just the questions. The questions are the doorway. The questions are the doorway to your sales volume, to your business growth. You build credibility, you influence decision-making, you create long-term benefits when you become a resource. When you start to ask questions to your community, to your prospects, they know you know what you're talking about. They know the struggle. They understand that you comprehend the struggle they're currently in. Because if you're asking them questions that they're not asking themselves, you've got a long way to go to create some rapport. You want to be in the mix, in the make with the conversations that they're currently doing, right? Harnessing expert endorsements, you know this. You use this from other industries, other people who are in your business, people who are creating, whether it's financial, whether it's health, whether it's team size. You've got all of these things that you can use to help harness the expert endorsements. The question is that sometimes we'll show celebrity endorsements. Have you asked the question, would celebrities influence your decision-making? Anytime you're about to go share a fact, you should have a question ready for that fact to be the solution, right? Is your company ISO certified? Is your company over 2 years old? Right? We know most companies are 95% of companies fail in the first 5 years. 80% fail in the first 2 years, and of the rest of the ones that in the next 3 years, they fail. A huge percentage of those fail. So you could ask the question, does the longevity of the company have any value to you? There's a lot of people who invite me to look at new startups. And I don't necessarily go with them on the new startups. You know why? It's not 2 years old. I'm just not going to put myself in that scenario. When the company's 2 years older or older, come back to me, have a conversation with me. In your field right now, let me ask you a question. This is a presentation on questions. In this field that we're currently in, are you considered an expert? Are you considered an authority? Are you considered somebody who can help people get their solutions? You could be any one of those levels. The question is, are you any of those levels? Right? Principles of consistency and commitment. Now I'm going to ask you as a sales trainer, to you as the professional, what is your psychological foundation for your business model? We talk to people, we ask people all the time, what's your why? What's your why? Tell me your why. If your why doesn't make you cry, you're not serious. What is your psychological foundation? Do you have belief in your business? Do you have belief in yourself? Do you have belief in your product? Do you have belief in your compensation plan? Do you have belief in your industry? Do you have belief in your company? Do you have belief in your upline? Do you have belief in your team? There was a good half dozen questions there. If you want better answers, you're going to have to begin to ask better questions. If I were to call up your last three of your business partners or prospects or customers and ask them, do you trust Sean? What would they say about you? The reason they may not have the level of trust you would like them to have, they would like to have, is because they haven't found you as a valuable resource. It's just that simple. They need to know they can count on you. They need to know they can trust you. Like and trust are two different things. Getting them to sign up for the initial commitments. This is where your tripwire. This is where your free offers. This is where your content creation. This is where your newsletter. This is where your committed to wellness profile content would be valuable. We post a lot of things out on social media. I'm building the Rocky Creek Ranch genre. That's why on some social media platforms, you'll see mornings from Rocky Creek Ranch. And they're beautiful mornings. They're different kinds of mornings. It's not always a morning, and sometimes it's a sunset. But I want people to know RCR. I want them when they get an invitation to come to RCR, all of the pictures, all of the sunsets that they have, they go, it looks like it's a pretty cool place to go. Just making sense? So again, all of these slides will be available when you guys, for those of you in the VIP section, they're available. For those of you that would like the upgrade, it's on the dashboard. You can click it, $47 for the recordings and for all of these presentations. You're going to have all of these contents. Okay, so this one is more about loyalty and rapport building and cultivating personal connections. I'm going to skip through this. I've got another 15 minutes here. And yes, this started an hour earlier than some of you that just recently arrived, because I can't tell time when I'm putting on the calendar. But 11 o'clock my time is when these will all start, regardless of what I think I said. Okay, so that's that one. This one you're going to like, because this next one is about questions, and that's what you came here for. You want to know some of the questions. And let me put this over here. Okay, so here's questions. Put that in present mode. There we go. And spotlight. There we go. You'll be able to see all that. Let me get over here. Where did my screen go? There's a lot to asking questions. I get it. And I've got 1,001 tabs open. Let me get these done. Oh, there you are. There's my screen. All right, share. Hang on. You can tell this is happening. This isn't a recorded conversation. There it is. All right, so here's more questions. Imagine there's a list of 100 right now. If you go back to the dashboard over on the right side, right around where you can upgrade for the $47. If you want to do that, for those of you watching the replay, there's a list of 100 questions. And here's some examples. How does an expert endorsement influence your perception of a product or service? Now, I can promise you, in all of the years that I've done sales training and all of the years that I've shadowed people on their business presentations, whether it be in the industrial world or in the network marketing world, I've shared these questions with them time and time and time again. I don't know why we refuse, or why some people refuse to ask poignant, powerful, increasing sales questions. But what if you ask that question, they said, I really don't care what somebody says about it. Why would you ever bother to show them an endorsement? Oh, well, Michael Jordan uses it. I don't care if Michael Jordan uses it. But some people would say, oh, if Michael Jordan uses it, I'm going to use it. And then if they say yes to it, here's the thing I really want to get across in this questions, is the linking to the success of the time that the question provided the value. So this one was the question you're asking is, does an expert endorsement make you feel better about making a purchase? Does it influence your purchase? And if they say yes, then the immediate follow-up question would be, can you recall a time when a professional certification or recognition influenced your decision to trust? These words are powerful, to trust a salesperson or the brand. Why would you ask that? Does it make sense why you would ask that? You would ask that because you want to link that experience to the experience you're now currently presenting, and covering and jumping over, quantum leaping over all of the failures. So can you think of the last time you decided to enter into a wellness program based upon the influence of a celebrity? The 24-hour diet, right? Whatever that was, the cabbage diet for 3 days, the Hollywood diet where you would starve yourself or do whatever, a cleanse for the weekend. They were all the rage because Suzanne Summers was doing it, or whatever. Somebody was doing it. I just dated myself as far as the hotties that I know in the world, in the Hollywood world. Is this making sense? What type of authoritative content do you find most convincing? Well, Sean, this sounds like you're trying to manipulate them. I just want to give them what they want. I know they're the 2-year-old sitting in the high chair, and I want to get, I got 15 tons of green peas in cans I got to get rid of. They're eating green beans. Not if they don't like green beans. I don't need my customers throwing my ideas all over the floor. You get it? Do you see the correlation there to kind of give you an idea? I want to ask, well, what do you think would be the most valuable resource you could use? Or what do you think the package is vegetable ink a value to you on if there's somebody who likes to recycle? Part of our company's commitment to worldwide wellness is we actually use vegetable ink on our labeling so that it's 100% recyclable. I have used that for people, and they purchase the product simply because of our commitment to our attention to detail for being able to recycle stuff. How do small initial commitments influence your likelihood to make larger decisions? Now, that makes sense, doesn't it? Just make sense. Well, why don't we ask that? Because we think we're nitpicking. I don't know. I that's the question I get. That's the response I get a lot. Well, doesn't that sound like you're just being critical? Yeah, maybe. But I can promise you, if you're reeling, if you're moving back in your chair because you're afraid to ask questions like this, give me about 3 seconds and I'll guess what's in your bank account. I know that sounds harsh. The reason that we struggle in sales is because they can't get enthusiastic about what we offer because we're not giving them what they want. Let me say that again. The reason they are not enthusiastic, Zig Ziglar says sales is a transference of enthusiasm. We are not awakening their God within. They're in theos because we're not giving them what they want. They're trying to tell us, but we can't hear it. We can't see it. We can't smell it. We can't taste it. So we got to ask it. There's always a couple of parts to the conversations. Can you give me an example? What does that look like? When's the last time that happened? What was your greatest, how did it make you feel? How effective do you find loyalty programs? Here's one: building rapport. See, there's a lot of people when I was building my network marketing businesses. There's a lot of people who didn't necessarily find me copacetic. I can be a little rough. I can be a little gruff. And especially when I would build internationally, it wasn't hard for them to say arrogant American before I ever said anything until they got to know me. But how does a salesperson's likability affect your buying decisions? People do business with who? People they know, they like, they trust. Can you describe a situation? What are some qualities you look for in a salesperson? Wouldn't this all make sense? So we're going to stop there. So we've spent 60, 75 minutes having a conversation about questions, about the psychology of questions, about the understanding of questions, and why it's so important to know the part 2 and the part 3 and the part 4 of the question you're about to ask. Where does it send their brain? Where does it send their mind? Where does it send their energy when they're confused, when they're concerned, when they're caring about what it is you have to offer? Has this been of value? I hope it is. I'm going to pause this recording and I'm going to go in and do some live Q&A. And we'll see you back here tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central. And the recordings will be up for 48 hours. And then if you'd like to get the lifetime versions of them, you can have access to them. There's a link in the resource section where you can get the upgrade. Okay. Well, I appreciate you. I'll see you here all tomorrow. I'm your head brain training question making misfit. I'll see y'all where? I'll see you tomorrow at the next event. OMG, how did I do that? I am so sorry that I sent you all on a wild goose chase. Goodness gracious. I can't believe it. Well, I said 11 o'clock, but I don't know how the thing said 12. I went there and I went, 12 o'clock? Really? What? How? No. And because I'm starting it, there's nobody here. I'm like, wow, I just got dissed. I just got thrown under the bus. I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. Nobody loves me anymore. And now have that running through your head. You really want to become a professional? Go watch the beginning of this. It doesn't look like I thought you all threw me under the bus. I'm like, no, I had to. And I'm going back and I'm checking. I'm going, okay, why does it say 45 minutes until the damn thing starts? So anyways. Oh, hey there. Thank you.